McDonald's made $25.5 billion in revenue last year. Less than half of that came from food. Think about that for a second. One of the most recognizable brands in human history, over 43,000 locations in more than 100 countries, makes the majority of its money from something that has almost nothing to do with burgers. McDonald's is secretly one of the largest real estate companies on earth. And once you understand how this works, you will never look at a McDonald's the same way again. You have almost certainly eaten at a McDonald's. Maybe last week, maybe yesterday. You ordered, you paid, you left. And you thought you understood the transaction. But here's what actually happened behind the counter. And it has very little to do with the food on your tray. McDonald's operates in a way that most people never stop to think about. It is a system so quietly brilliant that business schools around the world still study it today. And it starts with a single radical idea that one man had back in 1956. His name was Harry Sonneborn. He was McDonald's first CFO, and he said something that changed the company forever. He told Ray Kroc, "We are not in the food business, we are in the real estate business." Here's what he meant. When someone wants to open a McDonald's, they pay an upfront franchise fee of $45,000. Then they spend between $1.5 and $2.7 million constructing the restaurant. Then they pay McDonald's a royalty of 4 to 5% of every dollar they ever earn. And on top of all of that, they pay rent. Because McDonald's owns the building. In most cases, McDonald's owns the land too. The franchisee runs the restaurant. McDonald's collects the check every month for 20 years. There are nearly 40,000 franchise locations operating under exactly this structure right now. But what nobody expected was just how much that real estate would be worth. McDonald's owns over $27 billion worth of property, land, buildings, prime corner locations in the highest traffic areas of almost every city on earth. In 2023 alone, McDonald's collected $9.8 billion in rental income from its franchisees. That is more than the entire annual GDP of some countries. And here's what makes this model so powerful. McDonald's does not charge flat rent. It charges rent as a percentage of the franchisee's sales, typically between 8 and 15% of everything they earn. So when McDonald's improves its marketing, the rent goes up automatically. When a neighborhood becomes more expensive, the rent goes up automatically. When a new highway brings more traffic past the drive-thru, the rent goes up automatically. McDonald's wins every time without touching a spatula. And all of that rental income flows back to corporate with margins that make tech companies jealous. The franchise business runs at margins close to 90%. Compare that to McDonald's own company-operated restaurants, which run at around 16%. McDonald's keeps roughly 82 cents of every dollar its franchisees send over. It keeps only 16 cents of every dollar its own kitchens produce. The math is not subtle. But here's where it gets even more surprising. In 2023, McDonald's reported a net income of $8.47 billion. That is pure profit. After all costs, all expenses, all taxes. For context, that is more than double what Airbnb made in the same year. McDonald's operating margin sits at approximately 44%. Apple's operating margin is around 30%. Netflix sits at roughly 20%. A burger chain, a fast food company, is more profitable than some of the most admired technology businesses in the world. And the reason is simple. McDonald's does not really compete with Burger King or Wendy's. It competes with commercial landlords. It just also happens to sell you a quarter pounder while it does it. Here's the fact that stops most people cold. McDonald's total system-wide sales, every dollar spent across all 43,000 locations globally by franchisees and corporate restaurants combined, reached over $129 billion in 2023. McDonald's itself reported only $25.5 billion of that as revenue. The rest flowed through to franchisees, but McDonald's had already taken its cut. The rent, the royalties, the fees. It captured the benefit of $129 billion in global consumer spending, without cooking a single burger. The The people flipping patties are franchisees. The people paying the building costs are franchisees. The company that signed the lease and cashes the check every month, that is McDonald's. Ray Kroc once said, "I am not in the hamburger business. My business is real estate." He was not being humble. He was telling you exactly how the whole thing works. McDonald's is not a restaurant that happens to own property. It is a real estate empire that happens to sell food. The golden arches are not just a logo. They mark a piece of prime real estate owned by one company, operated by another.